Hello, my name is Rick Zappa, and I'd like to welcome you to my exhibit in the Land's Memory at Gallery Route 1 in Point Reyes, California. The exhibit goes from April 18th to May 24th. And there are 16 paintings, sculptures, and pop-ups in this exhibit, and I'd like to show you them right now. We'll start with the title wall, which is Alaska, the Last Frontier, oil on paper, foam, board, 8 by 15. This was actually, most of these paintings were done in between 2024 and 2026, but this was done immediately after my wife and I returned from Alaska in 2012. This one is called Silence. It's oil on canvas, 9 by 12, and it is a rendering of the Denali National Park. Next is Tundra. It's acrylic, oil pastel, sand, powdered marble dust, cold wax on paper panel. It's 24 by 24. Next to it stands Tundra 2, which is acrylic, oil pastel, sand, powdered marble dust, cold wax on paper panel, and it's also 24 by 24. On this bigger wall here, we have what I call the totem seat. Inspired by indigenous carving traditions, this work reflects the idea of totem as protector, storyteller, and holder of ancestral knowledge. The seat implies rest and relaxation, inviting viewers to consider what it means to listen to history rather than simply observe it. Moving on, this is Kodiak Harbor. It's oil on paper, panel board, 39 by 48. And it is the rugged coastline of Alaska, and it captures the working harbor of Kodiak at dusk. Moving on, this next painting is Guardians of the Snow. Oil, cold wax on panel, 18 by 24. This larger work is called Above the Alaskan Skies. It's oil on paper, 48 by 96. Immense skies dominate the composition, emphasizing openness and awe. The caribou symbolizes migration, survival, and reciprocity with the land. This work honors their central role in Alaska's ecosystems and indigenous cultures. It's acrylic, oil on canvas board, 48 by 72. This is the title piece of the exhibit, In the Land's Memory. It's oil, gold leaf on canvas. This painting blends landscape with symbolic presence, where land becomes body and memory becomes terrain. This is the Alaska Raven. It's the first of the pop-ups. It's made of balsa wood, panel board. It has pyrography around the sides of it, and it's a pop-up. Close and open, and it allows viewers to be involved with the artwork on a physical as well as visual sense. This is Denali, oil on paper, 41 by 54. The first painting you saw was a prototype of this one, which is much bigger. It stands as a remote and humbling presence. This painting emphasizes reverence and distance, presenting the mountain as witness rather than conquest. It is oil on paper, and it's 41 by 54. This is another drawing that I did immediately after Alaska. It's a Native Alaskan woman. It's pastel on paper, 4 by 6. Next is the Arctic Region 2025, acrylic on paper, mounted on wood 11 by 48. It's in one color, it's an acrylic, and it's mounted on a piece of pine wood that I found in my garage. I've always been a fan of pop-up books, and knowing nothing about them, I just took the plunge and decided I was going to make one as grand as Alaska. When opened, this is 24 by 48, and it is made of Bristol paper and mixed medium, airbrush, and it is meant to be interactive so that people can open and close it, and there's a storyline that goes with each page, as you see. I'm not going to show you the entire book now, but if you come to the exhibit, you can come look through the grizzlies. Humpback whale. And then the last page brings all the animals back in the finale in the last page. And then finally we have the last freestanding painting. This is oil on just canvas, and it's called Passage. This was a place in Denali that my wife and I would walk, and on the other side of this passage we came across two incredibly huge eagles that had a wingspan of over 6 feet. It was a memorable and unbelievable experience. So there you have it. That's the exhibit. I hope you can make it. Again, it opens this Saturday, April 18th, with artist talks at 3 p.m. and reception going until 5 p.m. And it will close on May 24th. Hope to see you then. Thanks for listening.
My name is Arminée Chahbazian, and I'm very happy to be the visiting artist here at Gallery Route 1 with my most recent oil paintings and some works on paper. The title of my show is Biggest Little Worlds, and it's all based on wild bird eggs that are in my environment at my home studio. I have my location for the studio where I live and work is very, very remote. It's deep in the forest on Mount St. Helena. And there's the place where I get very inspired by all of the flora and fauna that surrounds me. There are no people there at all. It's all wildlife and, you know, a microclimate that is very, very special. So this series of paintings all really started one day when I was out and about watching the birds, and I came across a wild bird egg that had fallen out of its nest. It might have already hatched. It was just slightly broken. And I held it up to the sky, and I thought, wow, this is like a little, you know, world unto itself. And it gave me the idea to kind of imagine these eggs from all these different species of birds as planets, literally out there in the universe. And it's very surreal, it's very imaginative, but I just wanted to kind of celebrate that potential life form as possibly existing out there as well, beyond our knowledge and our everyday experience. So I had fun with this. I went through and kind of you know, collected in my mind a list of all of the birds that I'm surrounded with in my environment, and really studying their habitat. By the way, the rest of my work too, I do drawings and sculpture. My work is all nature-based, and it's all you know, about my investigating patterns and structures within nature, and also recognizing the impacts that humans are having on our environment. In any case, I decided to make these paintings of these eggs literally floating in space, becoming their own planets. And with that, I also wanted to really understand the environment that bird came out of in an earthly way. So for example, this piece is the seagull, and that's why I positioned it in this environment where there's, you know, a horizon line that can be the ocean, Of course, you can recognize the light behind it. But the other thing I was trying to do with all of these pieces, this one is the crow, with it's the black wing of the crow, which is just a dense blackness that reminded me of deep space. I wanted to position this planet, this egg, in the deep space of the black wing, which you can see here. The other thing I'm really trying to do is recognize that the patterning on all the different eggs is reminiscent perhaps of some strange continental shapes or weather patterns, atmospheres that you might find when looking from a great distance at the planet through space. And yeah, so, I'm really trying to combine macro worlds and micro worlds in the same plane, so to speak, and just give some life to this very fragile form, the egg and the shell itself, and to, allow me to consider what the potential is within that form. I'm also really keenly interested in pure geometry and the geometry that exists in nature. So you can see that some of the pieces, with the egg form is in itself very interesting geometric shape. And yeah, we all know that planets are spheres, but I really wanted to literally stretch the imagination to include the ovoid shape as a potential planetary, thing out there. This piece here is titled merganser, which is a type of duck. And so I wanted to kind of, imply that there's water within that same environment. There's this blurred space of, blurred greenery that is occupying the space behind as almost a forest, as well as the water below, as if this environment has really become activated through motion, and I'm thinking about bird flight. Anyway, the horizon line here of the water versus the sky, so to speak, I had fun with thinking about that as the duck's environment. The duck flying away. I like to include elements from the bird where it's appropriate to kind of give it a context. This is a hawk, a red-tailed hawk, and I just wanted to imbue this particular space for this bird egg with the redness that glints off of a hawk when you see it flying through space, and that's just what I really felt strongly that that was important to me for this particular universe. The eyes could be, of course, you recognize them as eyes, hawk eyes, but they can also function as maybe moons around this planet. This is really a stretch of the imagination, but I really enjoyed, learning more about all of the birds that I'm observing. This is the canyon wren, who builds its nests in rock outcroppings often. And this is an encaustic painting along with oil. And I just wanted to give it that sense of more of a geologic formation, even though it's kind of moving, there's some motion behind, indicating there's atmosphere within that space behind. Then I also do some paintings on wood, raw wood panels. And then I specifically chose the raw wood because, of course, birds live in trees and wood is part of their natural environment. But I wanted to push that idea to sort of lend a certain texture to the space behind, as if there's this grain of literally a grain to the atmosphere or to that space that little bird egg is hovering within. These also include some elements that the particular bird, such as the sparrow here, might include in their nest building, as a way to speak of the bird's habitat and the original inspiration for the piece. This one is another sparrow with the leaf again, referencing a forest or the zone that the bird is most comfortable in, sort of emerging into this space in a more abstract manner without fully describing the leaf, but giving some context again to its environment. I'd like to explain this one a little bit. This is the pileated woodpecker. And I was so intrigued by the natural wood grain of this, this panel that I really wanted to work with it in terms of composing the elements, which of course, this is the woodpecker egg. But as we know, woodpeckers, literally drill holes into the trees. And I wanted to talk about that as in the form of this black spherical shape as maybe something that this bird has created, its own space, which could be where they're digging for insects, for food, for sustenance, they're hiding acorns or whatever is going on with the bird activity. I also included this element here to refer to the crest on the top of the pileated woodpecker head. I followed the original wood grain here by creating this shape. When I first looked at it, it reminded me of that shape of the crest. But to really draw attention to it, I opted to use these red beads, which I have strung and actually attached to the wood panel to give it some texture. I'm a sculptor at heart, so I really like including some other materials sometimes in my work, in my paintings. So this is all about the geometry of space, and it's definitely a much more abstracted version. So with this, these last two pieces, the palette is a little bit different, but I wanted to give it a different sense of light and experience throughout the day. This is a hummingbird, therefore it's a very, very tiny egg planet there, and I was really wanting to play with the notion of the hummingbird as a pollinator, but also how much the beak of a hummingbird is really distinguishes it from so many other birds. And just in playing with that shape, I came across this idea of these two beaks of almost providing horizon lines within space. There could be some water involved or pure sky. So again, this is a little bit more of an abstracted version. Here's a bluebird, and I have a lot of bluebirds living where I am, and I love watching them first thing in the morning, so wanted to really speak of that sky at dawn with maybe some weather moving in, and then the lichen moss that's dangling out of the who knows where, but it's notable for its use as a nest building material again for that bluebird. All of the paintings are named, by the way, by their scientific name, so I just have given the common names. These are drawings that I did almost more as studies, but I thought they fit in with this show. I call them Amongst the Clouds. So they are colored pencil drawings of just different cloud formations. And then I have positioned separately on Duralar, which is a vellum-like surface. I have drawn an egg and attached it with very fine thread to the drawing itself, so they're stitched on. And I just wanted, again, to speak of these eggs as planets, but on a more kind of earthly scale here, with almost a bird's eye view of what's going on in our earthly atmosphere, that include all of these amazing cloud formations that we also witness almost daily. So it's the same size egg, just occupying different clouds on different days, different colors, light coming through. I also tried to, for example, include some patterning that the sky presents, but it's part of the egg and the planet too. So there's the notion of the camouflage, which is why eggs are patterned the way they are, is to camouflage often. And so I'm using that concept to sort of make sure that that egg fits into that environment. So that about wraps it up. I hope this work speaks to viewers.
My name is Jenny-Lynn Hall, and I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about my show Impermanence, which is on display in the annex at Gallery Route 1 through May 24th. This work is deliberately unphotographable. This is because I want to encourage people to engage with the world, to think about what they are doing in the present, as opposed to thinking about taking a picture to refer to at a future time, or the idea of posting to social media. Primary experience is always more powerful and meaningful because it engages all of the senses. This work is dark, and you really have to look into it to see patterns. And I'm hoping that it'll be a springboard for self-reflection or just taking a minute to be quiet. Speaking for artists, we devote substantial amounts of time to develop techniques, and we give of ourselves when we make artwork. Many people might think that forcing people to come to the gallery to see my work is crazy, deliberately limiting an audience. However, I would prefer that fewer people engage more deeply with artwork, mine and other people's, than have a 2-second scroll be a primary way to view artwork that takes months to create. So I'm positing that to the art world and the way people are looking at art these days. My last show, entitled Immaterial, addressed the arbitrary nature of reality, the interweaving of the daily decisions and influence that come to define our lives over time in the interconnected web that we are a part of. A geometric grid represented this interconnectivity, which was covered in layers of white paint representing the conditions that prevent us from seeing it. This series takes from a similar grid, but has more solid foundations in sacred geometry. These pieces focus on duration as opposed to interconnectedness, however. As I age, I see that the world around me is continually changing, and people that I love change, age, and die. And I know that everything in life is subjected to this. Everything has a duration. And the only effect that we can have, or any phenomena can have on life, is the time and the place where it exists. And so, to address my own attachment to this concept that we know from the beginning of our lives, but can be very painful to realize, I've executed these drawings in impermanent material, in chalk and ash, and some water-soluble pencil. The idea is that they evolve and change over time, that these paintings, these drawings actually have their own duration. In doing this show, I got much more involved with sacred geometry than I was in the past, and there I discovered that the practice and the philosophy is much richer than I had initially thought. The ancient geometers were interested in metaphysical archetypes that were perfect, even though life on Earth is imperfect. If life on Earth was modeled after some sort of perfection, maybe it could be a counterpoint to the randomness in our lives. These are the grids that make up the bases of these drawings, and they're overlaid with this impermanent material. So I'm hearkening back to an ancient philosophy, adapting it to the way that I view the world, and trying to understand that through my art practice. I hope you'll pause and take a look.